actually my second time in Valencia. I gave a recital here before with a Spanish soprano called Silvia Schwartz. But this time I'm here to teach, not to perform. And it was Laila Barnard who invited me, who was a former student of mine at the Royal College of Music. They're very open to learning. The pianists make beautiful sounds uniformly, very, very beautiful sounds, and some lovely voices. But I think the standard is the same as we find in London. It's nicer from my perspective, just because the town is probably more relaxed than London. The building is very open and lovely, and we have the sunlight, which actually makes a difference to teaching and learning, I think. So perhaps we're a bit more relaxed here. I certainly am. It's quite a long story, but I was at university and I did a music degree. Then I was encouraged to do a solo piano degree at the Royal Academy of Music, which I did for 1 year. And then I met a gentleman called Joseph Zeiger, who was an official accompanist for Misha Elman, who was a very famous violinist in the days when accompanists used to be on contract to specific instrumentalists. And I went on a course with him, and he said to me he thought I had something special as an accompanist. And so I went back and I changed to piano accompaniment, and immediately everything clicked. And I realised that most of my musical experiences, even from the age of 5, had been always collaborative as an accompanist. Firstly with my mum, then my grandfather playing Christmas songs, and then accompanying school shows, and also I played the flute. So my experience of music was to be with other people and not to be on my own. I think it's a sensible profession, because there's, within the piano accompanist role or collaborative pianist, you can be anything from song accompanist like we're exploring today, or working with instrumentalists, playing for opera rehearsals, playing as an orchestral pianist. So there's many different avenues for work. So on a practical level, it's more sensible in a way to be a piano accompanist than a soloist. I would say probably if you're not a soloist by the time you enter music college, you're probably not going to have a career as a soloist. So it makes sense to see being a pianist not just as playing solo works, to do solo and piano accompaniment. But I think with song accompaniment, you have to love words and poetry, text, subtext, and also voices. I think that's what are the skills particularly of a song accompanist. First of all, you have to be a really great pianist. I think because you have to not only take on board your own piano part, but also you have to be able to collaborate. So you have to be able to change your idea of the music very, very quickly. But for that to happen, you have to really have the technical ability. And I think you have to want to work with other people. You have to be excited by other sounds, be it instrumental or vocal. And on practical level, I think you have to be very prepared. And prepared to change as well, very quickly. Because you have to meet different personalities, and every soloist has a slightly different way of working. So you have to be adaptable. There are differences depending on actually which singer you're working with. But fundamentally, I believe all of accompaniment is based on breathing, which all good musicians should do. So with the bow you breathe, of course with the wind instrument you breathe, and as a singer of course you breathe, and that's what you experience, and that's how you collaborate with another musician. With singers, there's a lot of other things that go on, because I think singing is one of the most beautiful things to do, but also probably one of the most difficult and one of the most vulnerable professions really, because it's just you and your voice, and you're making that sound. And so there's a lot of support, not only musically, but often sort of in terms of performance nerves and other things like that, which happen off stage before you actually get on stage. My favourite experience as an accompanist is probably to play the Schubert cycles, because I don't think that you ever replicate that feeling, not even with an instrumentalist. You start at the beginning of a concert with an audience knowing that you're going to be with that audience and with that singer and with that repertoire for a whole 90 minutes, which is quite daunting, it's quite scary, but into that fear, it's also quite exciting to go on that journey. So I would say yes, Schubert cycles. Well, I've always taught from being at university. So I've taught for about 20 odd years. So I've always been teaching, from starting with very small children to now working with slightly older people. But most of my work is really performing as a song accompanist. But I think as a teacher it's important to do both, even though it's quite scary sometimes performing. But I think you understand more about the music by being on stage with it than you sometimes do just by looking at it in the calm of a music room. And I think that keeps your idea of the music constantly evolving and changing, which you can then feed back to your students. Having said that, I find teaching fascinating, because not only do you tell people things, but also the way the student responds makes you look at the music differently, and also the way you play and make sound differently. And so it's a two-way process, which also helps my performance. So I think it's important to do both. Well, I think Erasmus is a brilliant scheme. This is my second time on it. The first time I went to Oslo and exchanged with the teacher there, and I think the benefits for me as a teacher are incredible, because I get to meet different kinds of students in a different environment, and then also when the other way around, when a teacher comes back to my institution, they give a whole perspective on music in another continent. So it's great. Yeah.